Here we are. Welcome back. My name is Ed Calais. I am with Truly Effortless Events, and this is Talk Truly. Today, we got Jonathan Gonzolez. Now, let me tell you a story about Jonathan. He's a realtor, but he's so much more. He's a podcaster. He has his finger on the pulse of real estate in Chattanooga. You met on different podcasts. You met Whitney Proctor, who was a moderator at one of our events with Jonathan. Came recommended by Jonathan. But what drew me to Jonathan? Well, the fact that he goes above and beyond for his clients, giving them a personal service, going in deep into the education of real estate, talking to people, trying to find more about the community. I could keep on listening, but why do that when I have him here? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Ed. This is awesome. I first off, I love the introduction. That was amazing, man. I'm usually the host, so it was nice to have it in a different way and being the guest this time. Well, so thank you for having me.
Well, whenever I created Truly Realtor, which is, if you don't have Truly Realtor in your town, you will one day. I promise you.
You will.
What struck me about you is that you had your finger on the pulse enough to know that if you want to be a realtor now, you have to explore all your options. Just like, Whitney does the same thing. That's why you two are amazing together.
Yeah.
You think they're a great individual, put them together. It's like, man, this would be a power team. But, I want to learn more about Jonathan.
Sure.
I know you're a realtor. I know you're an amazing realtor. I see. Here's the thing. I see you closing all the time. I see you listing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, where are you from originally?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I've been in Chattanooga now for about 20 years next month, which is kind of crazy.
So you're really officially from Chattanooga now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Been 20 years. I came from Clearwater, Florida. I was there for 12 years. A little bit of background. My ethnicity is Puerto Rican, so I was actually just in Puerto Rico last month, which was a lot of fun.
I love Puerto Rico.
You been?
Oh yeah, okay. I've been multiple times.
Yeah, it's been. I'm going again next month.
So. Oh, I'm jealous. I went there for my honeymoon, and my wife, who has this big adventurous spirit, always looks for local stuff, and we go wandering, and we came across this sign that said "Go home, gringo," and I'm going like that. It cracks me up. I'm going like, only my wife could do that. Find places where we're gonna be like expelled.
Yes. Oh my word, that's hilarious. Everyone's really nice though. I do have a really
amazingly nice
in that situation last month. I'll tell you a little bit more about it here soon. But when I going back to like my background and whatnot, before real estate, I was actually going to school to be a psychology. And I was going to be a counselor for more like mental health, substance abuse and whatnot. And I decided everything changed. And a reason why I was going into psychology and whatnot, because after high school, I went into like a little bit of like I struggled with addictions, drugs and whatnot, with alcohol and whatnot. And it took me at a place that I was just lost. I didn't know what I was wanting to do in my life. But thankfully, after not one overdose, I overdosed one time, but 4 times in a minute of like 2.5 years. And
wow.
Yeah. So God is good. Each time there was someone there to like help me call the ambulance and whatnot to reverse the drug that I was going through. But all that led me to like finally after my 4th, it should have been my first time to like, after my first overdose to finally get my life together. But when it comes to addictions, it is challenging for each individual. And for me, it took a little bit longer than others, unfortunately. But I was able to get out after my 4th overdose. And thankfully, I've been sober for 8 years now, drugs and alcohol. So it was a journey. And that's what led me to like, okay, I want to, go into school and help others when it comes to counseling or like substance abuse or anything like that. But I always did sales. I was always a salesperson growing up. I did door-to-door knocking. I've done sales with like car rental, a lot of things with sales, and I saw an opportunity through YouTube of real estate, and I just saw a YouTube video about how you can start your own real estate business, just being a realtor and whatnot. I was like, oh, this is interesting, and like, so I looked into it a little bit more, and I don't know, like this door, like this ring in my mind just like turned on of just like, okay, this is what I want to do for like my career. And so I told my parents I'm dropping out of everything. I'm just going to do full-time real estate. And but I still love psychology. I wanted to bring that into real estate because real estate there's a ton of psychology involved when it comes to different personalities and whatnot. But that's where the creation of the podcast came because I wanted to still bring mental health awareness into it within my business, but also bring inspiring stories within the podcast and whatnot. So that's where it kind of all came about of where I started and where I'm at now with real estate. So I'm off my 4th year now in real estate.
Wow. Congratulations
Yeah.
on the sobriety.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations on the career. Congratulations on the podcast.
Mhm.
Now your podcast, JG Podcast.
Yep. The JG podcast show.
Where
Yeah.
where can people find it?
Yeah, so you can definitely look it up on Spotify, Apple Music. I'm working on launching it on YouTube as well. And so little by little transitions, but definitely it's just a JG podcast show. And I'll be more happy to share it to anyone.
Oh,
We have an interview. I actually have an interview with Ed. So you definitely got to check it out because that one's a little different, you know. It was more about your events and whatnot. So you definitely want to check that one out.
well, I think we went over the limit. We were talking and we just kept on.
Yeah, but it was good. That's what good interviews go for.
That's what where you learn about the people. I mean, people want to do business with people,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
what a business,
Exactly.
And that's how it goes. And you make it personal. Whitney and I were talking about the same thing,
Mhm.
making it personal, making yourself human. And,
Sure.
I applaud you in many ways. I don't know if you know that my wife is an addiction doctor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because when you interviewed, I had Shay McCormick on my
Yeah.
podcast. That's right. I worked with your wife.
Yep.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
Yep. She's the medical director over where he worked.
Mhm.
And, but, so it's a big deal. It's part of our lives, working with people who had former addictions and stuff like that. Because the one thing that she said that she's always going to enjoy is watching how people can turn their life around,
Yeah.
and that's a big deal. And
It
for,
is.
for you to do that, I applaud you. And I know that, whether, you watch this on YouTube or Facebook, or if you watch it, clips on TikTok or whatever to tune in, that right there, if you're struggling with an addiction, for one, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would honestly reach out to someone that you love and trust that, you can be open about it and accepting first off that you have a problem because a lot of us, we tend to like, we're not that, we're not addicted. I don't have a problem. And that's the problem itself because then you always will fall back and relapse over and over because you don't accept the fact that you do have a problem. And I think that's the first step.
Denial will do it every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm diabetic.
Mhm.
You know, um, I was in diabetic denial all my life. You know why? Because diabetic shaming. You do all the things that you think is going to be right, but they might not be enough.
Yeah.
And getting out of that denial stage is when reality hits, and you go
Yeah.
like, I'm not indestructible.
Mhm.
I don't care. At the end of the day, if my family had it, I was going to have it.
Mhm.
I was just getting tired of the advice of going like, oh, you're diabetic. Hey, don't eat so many candy bars. Great. How about, like if I don't want to get in a car wreck, I don't drive.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like there's no way. And the fact
Mhm.
that you funneled your energy and focused it on real estate, and not only doing real estate, but just taking it to another level, your addiction now has become success. That's
Yeah.
what you're
Amen.
addicted to.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. I had to transition it to now work or whatnot, I guess what people would say. But it was not easy, and like you said, like the accepting the denial it's absolutely like it wrecks you. And so just coming to a place that you accept it, and then not only that, you want it for yourself too.
Yeah.
Because I used to do whenever I like wanted to get clean, I was mainly because I was doing it for other people, like my ex-girlfriend or my parents and whatnot, but never really I truly wanted it for myself. But until I made that decision for myself, like, hey, I actually want this for me, I want to love myself again. That's when it all changed. Because then you'll put in, you'll do whatever it takes to make sure you stop those addictions.
Yeah. And you replace them with healthier ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
working out,
Working out, man. I'm
there's a lot
telling
of
you, look,
things.
this guy could dress like you wouldn't believe. He's dressed to the
I
nines.
appreciate it.
His car's clean. He walk. When Jonathan comes in, Jonathan comes in.
I appreciate it, man.
And
I try to.
yeah, it's one thing
Yeah.
that you're known for. You're sharp dress. You're
Yeah.
you're elegant in the way you dress. You
Thank
do
you.
everything right, man. And I appreciate
Thank you.
as a person, if I was want to buy a home or anything, and then how someone presents himself is a big deal because you don't.
I agree. And at a day, yes, I do. I enjoy dressing up nice. Yes, but I'm also at the end of the day, I'm representing my clients, and I definitely want to position myself that like I'm trustworthy, and I'm making sure that I'm trustworthy because it shows it shares it. How would you say it? Like it affects everything in work and your personal life as well when you know how to dress up well or like take care of those little things.
You can
And they see that,
you control the environment.
You control exactly. You control the environment.
You're setting the standard, going like, okay, this is how it is. If you show up in like not dressed to the nines, then that's what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
You're setting the standard. You're going like, this is what we're gonna do. This is what I expect. This is boom. You just boss it up. That's
Yeah,
what you do.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start calling you Jonathan Boss Gonzalez.
Jonathan Boss Gonzalez. I like it. I like it.
There's your new
My
name,
new
man.
name, new podcast. Baby.
Yeah,
No,
well,
just kidding.
here you go. Like you got to buy a house with the boss.
I know, for real. No, absolutely. I definitely love taking care of my clients though, and it's nice because like I finally found that type of career that you don't feel like you're working.
So
Like, it's
what
just
drew you to real
ongoing.
estate?
What drew me was honestly that YouTube video that I saw, and I was like,
So
man,
that was the
that was
main-
really the main thing. And then I found out my second cousin in Nashville was a realtor, and then so I reached out to her, and then I drove up to Nashville, and I kind of like went with her throughout job hunting, I guess you can say, with her, job shadow. And she showed me everything that she was doing, and I was like, "Oh wow, I can really see myself doing this." She was driving like the nice car and everything, so she sold me on that, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this." And I went 2021. I got my license. I went cold turkey, doing it full time. No, I didn't have any other side job with me. Thankfully, interest was at 2-3%. That helped me get my business going pretty fast. But I was able to win Rookie of the Year for the state of Tennessee with EXP Realty.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so that was huge. I did not expect that.
Just
And I started
just
March
a little
2021.
state, not
Yeah.
not the county. Oh, excuse me, I'm the state. Yeah,
It
excuse
was a
me.
state. It was a state.
Can
It
you
was
get
just
more
crazy.
balls? Okay, or you're gonna be rolling into a Rolls Royce
I
here.
know, right? Maybe, hopefully soon one day. I don't know, but I do like my Tesla, so it's a fun vehicle. But no, it was challenging. I didn't expect myself to get it because like I started in March 2021, so I didn't even complete a full year technically because I didn't start in January.
Okay, so
So
now
when
you're
they-
flexing. Now you're flexing. Now
No.
you're flexing.
No, no.
Oh yeah,
It was
I even
cool.
wasn't
No,
a full
no.
year. Oh, I did it with one hand behind my back. What I mean?
No. It was a blessing though. It was needed, and so, but yeah, and then after that, I was able to recruit some agents and whatnot. So I have some agents with me, with EXP Realty. They do their own thing, however, I mentor them and whatnot.
The one thing that I do notice that anytime someone meets you
Mhm.
or I've been around you, they walk away a better person because
Thank you.
They feel enlightened and they feel like man, like I was again the word of the year. I'm going to use it.
Yeah,
The vibe that you give off is you make people feel like they could do better,
yeah,
and that's a big deal.
Mhm.
And I know knowing now where the root where it's coming from because struggling with addiction and then coming from the ashes and just
Mhm.
rebuilding yourself. I respect you
I
even a
think
little more now.
I think that's the main thing is the fact that I've seen the worst of the worst. That's a little hint of the stories of my addictions and my overdoses. But end of the day, everyone's dealing with their own challenges and whatnot, and there's no reason for you not to like show kindness to people, even though they may not give that back to you, you know? And that comes with a lot of like self-love within yourself to be able to be like, okay, even though this person treats me this way, I'm gonna still show them, kill them with kindness, and that a lot of times that changes them and they see that, and then hopefully it helps them become a better person as well within all that.
Yeah, and hats off to you, man.
Try to, but
Yeah.
we're human. I'm not perfect. There's
So let's talk about real estate.
Yeah,
You
let's do
know,
it.
because I mean, yeah, I brought you on here for a couple of reasons. One,
Mhm.
you're just, the dynamic personality. You know, what now?
Mhm.
If you were giving advice to somebody, for one, you gave advice on what's happening with addiction. That's, now if someone's listening to this podcast,
Mhm.
and they're going like, man, I want to be a real estate agent. I don't know what all is involved. What are the pros and the cons? What are the lessons that you've learned that if you say, hey, well, just don't do this and you'll be good, or
Mhm.
do this when people say don't do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because I know, especially in sales,
You
you
know,
have haters, and those are the people that are going like, they want to see you succeed,
Mhm.
but not more than
not
them.
more than them. Exactly. No, no, no.
So,
And it's so true. That's so true. And I've seen it, and I've kind of seen it, experience it for myself as well, where sometimes even friends are like that too, when they're like, you see you're doing better than them, and then they kind of start put some shady words or comments towards you, and it's coming from a place more of like jealousy, which is unfortunate. But going back to your question and how I start real estate, or what I would do differently, honestly, hiring a coach or having that type of mentorship with the way the market is. Yes, I was blessed that I was able to start business as a solo agent, never joined a team. I was one of those persons that wanted to figure it out on my own kind of thing. But it's a very challenging market, and if you don't have that much influence within the area in your market, joining a team is not a bad idea, to be honest with you, because then you can get the mentorship, the training, all that, the accountability as well from other agents to get you going within your career. And then if you see like, hey, you know what, I can branch out, because they do take a pretty big cut within the commission. A lot of teams do. Then you can go and branch off and do it yourself kind of thing. And that's what I kind of would recommend at a place. It depends on what position you're at when you start out as a realtor.
So start out like in a team. So
I would say just to get that type of mentor, because right now it is a challenging market, a lot challenging than it was a few years ago, just because, with interest being so high, houses are sitting on the market a lot longer. And, you
Everyone's
need
a
that you need that, and everyone's a realtor. And the thing is that they, with the way the market is, like houses are sitting for a little longer, you want that type of coaching, um, from or mentorship from your broker or whatnot, from a team that can help you be like, hey, that can hold your hand within this challenging market that we're in.
Oh, that makes sense. Like on a
Yeah,
team.
because you're gonna lose. You're gonna figure out. You're gonna get discouraged.
Well, I've
For
heard
sure.
like pros and cons of a team, and I'll be honest with you. So I'm myself. I'm kind of ignorant to a lot of the things that have to do with a team. You know, if
You
you're on a
know,
team, if one person sells a house, does everybody on that team get a little piece of that, or is it
no, just a broker.
just a broker?
Yeah. So, well, a lot of times from what I've seen, it's like a 50% cut. So you'll get 50%, and then the team, the broker, and then the money goes, and this just goes towards like transaction coordinator, assistant, all that good stuff. But usually it's 50% that's taken cut.
So if you would have if you could go back in time, you would have done a team.
I don't
before?
think I would start a team, but I would say at this where we're at with the market, I would say I would recommend it right now.
So if somebody was going like, I want to be a real estate agent, what questions should they ask themselves before they make that jump?
First off, I would ask how much money you got that you can hold up for a few months for no closings, potentially for a few months. Why do you really want to do real estate? Because a lot of times they see the real estate shows or like everyone saying how you can make so much money. But yes, you can, but it's a lot harder than what it shows on social media and on TV kind of thing. So having a clear why on why you want to do real estate. And then if you have a clear why and really why you want to do it, then who do I need to get connected with?
It's true. You know,
Who do you know?
everybody has to know you. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
always joke and say that my future job one day is I'm going to be a realtor with a team because everybody knows me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and they call me, and you know, if you keep that, if that ever happens, who knows? You know, but I could see that being a realtor is like being a duck. You know, you're floating on top, everything looks calm. Underneath, those legs are going. You know,
Yes.
they're just frantically working just to keep yourself
That's a good
afloat.
analogy, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's home inspections or everything, you become an expert. You wear so many hats.
Yeah.
You know that, somebody. I was hanging around a realtor. I can't remember who it was, and someone said something about repairs on their house, and that realtor just knocked out an answer before anybody else could. Then they're going
really?
like, "Are you a contractor?" No, I'm a realtor.
I'm a realtor.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
because if you're trying to sell something and something has to be done, you're dealing with everything. I know.
Yeah.
On my own home, when we constructed a patio, we I had quotes, big deck. I had quotes from everybody. The people that quoted me the most were friends.
Oh, wow.
And then whenever I walk, I've learned that lesson. Okay, you do business, don't do it with friends all the time, because
All the time. Yeah.
if you have a friend that's gonna go like, hey, I'm gonna give you that deal, then you just constantly give them business.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the ones that weren't, that gave me the best deal, were at my home just today, staining that same deck, that they built. And when they came, they're going like, this is one of our favorite decks that we built.
Oh, wow. And that was one of your friends?
No, they weren't my
just one of
friends.
your friends. Okay.
But I've referred them probably about 10
know,
times.
wow.
And then,
that's how you do it, though.
Yeah. You do people right.
Do right. Yeah. And the business will come. That's why I tell a lot of the agents too. It's like this is the long game. You can't look at like those smalls. This long game is do right with your clients, because then it's like a family tree. You're gonna get their family eventually, and it's even if you're gonna take a small cut right now, but in the long run you're gonna get a lot of referrals.
You have to outlast everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. And so I definitely agree with you with that.
Now, you said make sure you had money stowed away for a couple months.
Yeah.
Good advice. Would you suggest it for a single person, or would you suggest it, you might be safer if you're doing it if you're a couple, if you're a husband or a wife, or
like starting a business, like real estate?
Starting in real estate.
Real estate? I don't know, actually. That's a good question. I've had a lot of married couples that do really well together.
Really?
Yeah, but then there's some that are like, don't mix, business with like marriage, I guess you can say. So
well, I can see how that would be a little tough, though.
It can be, yeah. I have seen people that don't make it, that I've seen that were together for a very long time in the business, and then they, not together, unfortunately. But
so, in your years as a realtor, how many friends have you seen come and go?
A lot, man.
And what was the main reason?
I would still say like 80%. I think the stat is pretty good. 80%.
80%.
Yeah.
So it's a tough career. You have to really, really put on. It's not for weak.
Tough. It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
And, but if you do things right, and if you're patient and you're consistent, you can really make this business a really rewarding career.
Now, as with any other realtor, I want you to tell people why they should buy a home or sell a home with you.
the mic is me. Well, one of the biggest things for me is like the communication, but not only that is the fact that I've lived here for about 20 years, so I really understand the market really, really well in this area. And a lot of people that I've learned or have really got to connect over the years, like realtors in the area, they really still don't understand the market in this area. And so you're really giving a disservice. And I'm not trying to belittle it or really talk down about any realtor, but you really need to understand the market for you to better position your buyers or sellers wherever they're at and what their goals are. And so I think that's the main thing for me. And I'm fun to work with. I enjoy. We have a lot of fun whenever we do showings. It's you're finding someone that's going to be honest and transparent from the start.
What's the biggest trend that people are requesting?
Right now, our closing costs.
Closing costs?
Yep, at least for buyers.
Really?
Asking for closing costs right now. But this year, I've been able to get all my clients closing costs paid.
Wow.
Every my closing. We're just the market has changed. It's just it's
It's a
tough.
buyer's market.
It's becoming, I would say it's a buyer's market, to be honest with you.
Yeah, compared to just like right after the pandemic, it was definitely a seller's market.
Yeah, exactly. And it's unfortunate because there's some houses that are sitting longer that I do believe would have sold quicker last year, and they waited a little too long.
I remember when go like, oh, well, you better respond now, or only 5 minutes, this house is going to be sold.
I know. There was one time I pulled up to a house in my first year in real estate. There was like 25 cars all for this one house. And it was like the whole neighborhood was like with cars. And I was like, people were just going in and out. The doors were just open. People were just walking in.
Now, how would people get in touch with you?
How they can find me? You can definitely find me on Instagram, Jonathan Gonzalez Realtor, on Facebook, Jonathan Gonzalez, but my website is jonathangonzalezrealtor.com. And then my phone number and contact information, you want me to put that in there as well?
Yeah.
It's already there for 423-704-2601. And I'd love to help you out. Or if you have any questions, I'm here for you.
Well, thank you again.
I love it. It was good.
I really appreciate this full circle moment of, me coming on your podcast, you coming on here. And, it's amazing. I want to thank everyone now for coming to Talk Truly. This is, find us, talktruly.com, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. We're going to be everywhere. I want to thank Area 52 Media Group. This is where the studio is. That beautiful studio. Please check out their page. My name is Ed Calais, and this is Talk Truly.